Well, there was always fantasy in Bond. You know, it is the fantasy of Bond that I think is the thing over the years that's kept Bond going. Well, yes, there is a certain formula, but there have to always be, in that formula, there are surprises. And this, like the Bonds before it, is full of surprises. In fact, most of them surprise me. I don't know, but if you get a script, and you can find out what the plot is, you tell me.
Look after Mr. Bond. See that some harm comes to him.
So Bond will be going about his business when suddenly he's in danger. Following the villain's instructions, nameless henchmen are dispatched to liquidate Bond. Ideally, this scene will have some fun suspense in the build-up. The henchmen are watching Bond. Bond seems oblivious to what's about to happen. Then suddenly, Bond gets tipped off to their attack. Where the henchman misses and loses the element of surprise they had. Bond now knows something's up and jumps into defense mode. A fun action scene ensues with Bond taking out the attackers one by one.
Ever got the feeling somebody doesn't like you?
Keep your head down!
Typically, henchmen aren't very good shots, and they come off looking like complete klutzes during these scenes. Bond not only takes them out, but makes them look like real idiots. As the story progresses and Bond gets closer to discovering what exactly the villain is up to, these attacks become more orchestrated and deadly. But naturally, Bond is triumphant during these attacks, and takes care of the henchmen, or women. After dispatching these guys, he might toss out a funny one-liner, another signature to the series and the character.
How did it happen?
I think they were on their way to a funeral.
Shocking. What a helpful chap.
What happened?
Salt corrosion.
Play it again, Sam.
I'd say one of their aircraft is missing.
Don't worry. It's all wrapped up.
Sergeant, make sure he doesn't get away.
They're virtually all the same. The audience get what they pay for. It is big, it's spectacular, the locations are spectacular, the action is enormous, but it's the same story, dressed up in a different fashion. You mustn't change things, so people are very, very disappointed if they didn't have the same formula. But you dress it up in a different way, that's all.
It's too late to meet him today. Can I, persuade you to accept a bed for the night?
It's kind of you to say, but I really feel like...
Are you, quite sure I can't persuade you to stay the night?
When one is in Egypt, one should delve deeply into its treasures.
I mean, Bond's been at this place almost an entire day already. So it's time for some fun.
Behave yourself, Mr. Bond.
Usually the villain has some attractive worker who's part of his empire. If so, Bond will turn on the charm and grants her some of his personal time. Of course, she can't resist. This is a great way for Bond to get some much-needed information about the villain, too.
They were working on something very secret, but everything's been moved.
Where to?
Alternatives can be Bond just meeting some babe on the beach, or casino, or wherever he might go. Bond always seems to be in the right spot to meet up with a beautiful chick.
What are you hoping to catch?
Something about 6'2", 190 pounds, with brown eyes.
Well, why bother going to sea?
If his contact is a hot woman, he can save a lot of time going out and make jumping into the sack their first order of business.
And meanwhile, how do you kill 5 hours in Rio if you don't zap her?
But these women are really taking their life in their hands. One of the golden rules in Bond's world is if he has sex with you too early in the film, you're most likely not going to survive long enough to make it to the closing credits. That is, unless you're his leading lady, and there can be rare exceptions to that rule. Bond is almost as bad as the Black Widows on occasion. He must keep busy crossing names out of his little black book.
Sit down, Bond. Here, your 007 ring. It leaves the 007 seal. Your 007 ID bracelet conceals ammunition and message pellets for use with the 007 pen. An ordinary pen, isn't it? It writes like one, but it projects messages over 20 feet. Ingenious. And should you find yourself trapped, you merely whistle for help. Then, by placing ammunition in that slot... Careful, Bond! This is vapor paper. Writing messages to our agents. Drop it in water. Astonishing. Good luck, Bond. You're on your own.
Get your 007 secret agent pen and disappearing vapor paper separately or packaged with a 007 secret agent ring and ID bracelet. You'll get a bang out of it. By American Character.
I had to. Bond came to see me this morning.
Yes, I know. I gave orders that he should be killed. Why is he still alive?
Our attempts failed.
Your attempts failed. I do not like failure. You are not going to fail me again, Professor.
So those nameless henchmen who weren't able to kill Bond go back to the villain to report their failure. The big old mean villain is naturally a bit disappointed.
You let him get the better of you.
You're not much use to him if you can't knock off a simple 00 agent.
This organization does not tolerate failure.
I know, but you see,
Go!
So it's time to not show forgiveness, show off some brutality, and dispose of a henchman. The villain usually does it pretty calmly. This makes the act much more merciless. Death by button is a popular way of disposing of disloyal or failing workers. The villain has got it all set up so that with one simple press of a button, a snap of his finger, or just a menacing look, will send whoever he wants to their fate. Usually this is a pretty horrible one too. The more painful and disturbing it is, the better.
Leave him!
It doesn't necessarily have to be an incompetent henchman either. Just any poor slob will do. Someone who the villain has no use for, and it would be much easier just having them killed than to deal with them.
So, does anybody else want to drop out?
But these deaths shouldn't be confused with the more significant one.